Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello guys, welcome to Tech 45 Degree, and in this video we will try to explore Pandas for data science. Pandas is a Python library used for working with data sets. It has functions for analyzing, cleaning, exploring, and manipulating data. Pandas allow us to analyze big data and make conclusions based on statistical theories. Pandas can clean messy datasets and make them readable and relevant. So Pandas is a tool provided by Python, and it basically deals with large datasets. And with the help of Pandas, we can analyze data and manipulate our data. So here we have some dataset, and this dataset, it contains some top-selling albums, and it contains around 9 records, which is a very small data set. And if we need to analyze this data, we can use Excel, okay? But for example, if we have some large data sets, for example, if I show you this one, and this is the data set from Movie Lens, okay? And it contains around the 62,424 movies records, and on it has this ratings files. So if you see here, we have a ratings on each movie by each user. So this is our user ID, and this is movie ID, and this is rating provided by a user on a specific timestamp. And this contains around actually it is a very huge data set, and it is around 100 million record. So when you are going to deal with such kind of big data sets, then Excel file is not a good approach, because you cannot analyze such a huge data sets with the help of Excel file. So for that, to deal with such a huge data set, we have a library called Pandas, and it is provided by Python. So we can deal with large data sets for analyzing and manipulation. So we will try to understand some basic concept about Pandas in this tutorial, and we will see how we can load data in our Pandas and deal with these large data sets, okay? And we will try to explore some basic functions about Pandas in this tutorial. So kindly stay with me, and if you haven't subscribed my channel till now, kindly subscribe my channel, click on the bell icon, and also like the video. So I am inside in my Jupyter notebook, and here we will explore some basic concept about Pandas, that how we can deal with large data sets and how we can use Pandas different functions for data analysis and data manipulation. Okay, so first of all, we need to install Pandas. So I have a command that is explanation pip install Pandas. So if I execute this cell, it will install the Pandas in my environment. But if you already install Anaconda, so Pandas come with its basic environment. Okay, so as you can see, Pandas is already installed in my system. That is, I have received this message that is requirement already satisfied. And once we have installed the Pandas, so we can import it as a Pandas as a PD. So if I execute this cell, okay, so now the Pandas is imported as a variable called PD. So we can use PD in our program to use Pandas functionality. So first of all, we need to create a data frame, okay, and data frame provided by Pandas to deal with large data sets. It has a lot of functions, okay, so it has a lot of great functions to analyze the data. So how we can create a data frame? So first of all, here as you can see, we have our data here, okay, so this data is in the form of dictionaries, right? So like we have a car data, inside this car data we have a make, and this make, it contains these values. Then we have fuel type as a key, and this is a, it has values. So like dictionaries, we have data in the key value pair, right? So if I execute this cell, so it create this car data, and if I explode its type, it is a dictionary. So now we have to load our dictionary into a data frame. So for that, I have a command here that is pd.dataframe, and here I will pass our dictionary. So if I execute this cell, right, so our df car is created, and now let's explore it. So if I see df car, right, okay, just a small mistake here, okay. So as you can see, now we have a make, and inside make we have RD BMW Dodge, and its fuel type is car, gas. RD has a gas, and number of doors for RD is 4, and its body type is sedan. Similarly, we have BMW, its fuel type is gas, number of doors, it contains 2 doors, and it is body style is hatchback. Then we have Dodge, fuel type diesel, number of doors 2, and body style sedan. And if I check its type, so if I will say the type dot df underscore car, if I execute it, so as you can see, it is a data frame. So if you don't have any idea about dictionaries list and some basic Python concepts like type, so I have complete video tutorials on that, and I will leave the link in the description, so you can find these videos and try to explore those videos first. Okay. Now if you see here, so we have some data here. Okay. And this data, it contains some columns and some records. So in the columns we have artist, which contain name of the artist. Then we have an album, which is the name, that is, it represent the name of the album. Then we have released year, so year the album was released. Then we have length, minimum seconds, so it represents the length of the albums in hours, minutes, and seconds. Okay. Then we have a genre, that is, it represent the genre of genre of the album. Then we have music recording sales in millions. Okay. And these records has been taken from some database, song database. Then we have claims, sales, millions. Then we have date released. Okay, and then we have soundtrack, which represent indicates if the album is in the movie soundtrack or no. If that is Y, so it is mean that this is the soundtrack from the movie. And this is the ratings by the provided by the friends in your circle to these movies. Okay, so if you see, we have this data set, so it contains artist, album release, then channel, okay, music recording sales in million, claimed sales in million. Then we have release date, then we have soundtrack, okay, and then we have rating that is provided by friends from 0 to 10. Okay, and these are the artists. Okay, these are the albums of these artists and when it is released. So then, so here, as you can see, we have this data set, and now we will see the different operations that we can perform on this data set to analyze. Okay, so first of all, I have to import this data set, and this data set is here, that is, it is inside this Excel file. Okay, so as you can see, it is a top selling album, and we will import it in our pandas. Okay, so for that I have a command that pd dot, if I check, that is read CSV, and here I will give the path. Okay, and once I have read it, I will say df, I will assign it to the variable called df, album. Let me correct these spellings. Okay, now it is good. And here now I have to give the path to read the CSV. So my notebook and the CSV file is in the same path. So I will give the file name here and I will say top selling album.csv, and if I execute it, so df album, the cell is executed successfully. Now if I want to show, I can say df album, and as you can see it is imported in our this variable. Okay, so it contains these values, and now if I want to see its type, so to see the type, I will call this type function, and inside this type function I will call df album. Okay, so it is a data frame. And now if I want to see the some records, okay, so we have a command that head, so the head will show some starting rows of the record. So if I will call df album.head, and if I execute it, so it will show me the first five records of the data frame. And inside this head, if I pass the number of records that I want to see, if I execute it, so as you can see now it shows me the 6 records, and if I pass 7 here, okay, so it shows me 7 records. Okay. Similarly, we have a function called tail. So I will call tail on the df album, and it will show me the records from the end. Okay, so as you can see, it shows the 5 records from the end, that is 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, last 5 rows. Okay, and here if I pass the numbers, like how many records from the last I want to see, right? So similarly, like the head function, we can pass the number of integers in the tail function to see the records from the end. And now if I want to see the shape of the data frame, so for that I have a function that is shape, and if I call df album dot shape, so it will tell me the shape of the album, the data frame, and it contains 8 rows and 10 columns. So if we count it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so it contains 10 columns. Okay, and yep, and it contains 8 rows. And to check the columns, we have a function called df album dot columns, and if I execute it, I have a mistake here. If I execute it, so it tell me that what kind of columns, like what columns it contains, and it returns this columns names in the list. So as you can see, it is inside this square bracket, right? So now this is what we have import the CSV, right? Now if I have to import an Excel file, to import an Excel file, so I have a function called, I will say pd.read, yep, read Excel, and here I have to give the path, and the Excel file name is top selling album.excel sx. Okay, and let me name it as a df album. Okay, and if I execute it, so df album is created, and if I want to see df album, so it contains this records, right? And now, for example, if I want to take some columns from this data frame and want to assign it to a new variable called x. Okay, so as you can see, let's try to access the length column and assign it to a new data frame. So how we can do that? So for that, I will say x equal to df, and we will do operation on df album, and here I will pass the double brackets, and inside this double bracket, I will pass the name of the column. So that is the len. If I call it as a len here so the X is created, and here if I execute it, so the X is a new data frame which contains only the len column, right? If I try to explore its type, and if I execute it in a type function, so as you can see, X is a data frame which contains only the len, right? And if I want to see its columns, I can call X dot column, so it contains only the len column. And if I want to see its shape, sorry, the spelling is incorrect. So it contains 8 rows and 1 column, right? Like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it is 8 rows, 8 records with 1 column. So the process is shown in the figure here, that this is how we can create a new data frame, right? And here we can select the column which we want to see. And here we can also assign a value to a series. So you can think of Pandas series as a single one-dimensional data frame with 1 bracket. So if I execute this cell with a X, right? So right now it is a data frame, but if I do it like this way, so I will say df album, okay, and here I will pass the length inside only a single brackets, right? Let me correct these spellings here. Okay, so if I execute it and then I will check, okay, so as you can see, now it is a series. Okay, if I want to check its type, so it is a series. Now it is not a data frame, it is a series, because we extract the data with only the single bracket. But if you see here, we use the double brackets. So with the double brackets, it provides the data in a data frame, but with the single bracket, it gives us the series. Okay, so now let's assign a different column to our X variable, and that is we are going to assign an artist. So if we see our data frame, it contains the artist, the original data frame, right? And if I do it like this way, so I will say df album. So I will use double bracket, and inside double bracket, I will pass the column name. Okay, and if I execute it, so now it contains the artists. Okay, similarly, let's create another variable called q, and this will contain, I will call it df album, and it will contain the ratings. So I will use it rating, and if I execute it, so as you can see, we have another data frame which contains only the rating. And now let's do with multiple columns. So for example, if you want to select a multiple columns from a data frame, so right till now we were dealing with single columns, right? But now we want to select the multiple columns. So I will call df album, okay, and inside this double brackets, I will pass the name of the columns. So for example, if I want to select the columns, let me print the whole data frame here. Okay, so here we have a original data frame, that is the album, and from this album now we want to create a new data frame with multiple columns. So first column I will take as a artist, and then the second column will be the album, okay, and the third column will be general. Okay, so let me copy the name here and paste it here. And if I execute it, so we have a error because this is the spelling is not correct here. So I will call df album. And if I execute it, so we have another data frame that is y, and it contains artist, album, and genre, these columns. So as you have seen that here we have passed the names of the columns, okay, and we have created another data frame that contains these columns, okay. Another approach is that, for example, here we have a variable and it contains the list. So this is the variable and it is a type of list and it contains these values, that is artist, album, and length. I hope the spelling is correct. Let me check it here. Right. Okay, and here let me close it inside the bracket. So I have created a variable called a, and if we check its type, it is a type of list, okay, and inside this list we have values called artist, album, and then which is the name of the columns, okay. And now if I want to select these columns from this data frame, so I can pass this variable inside this, okay. So let me create another data frame that is a name e, and here I will say df album, and inside df album I will pass this list, okay. And if I print it, so as you can see we have another data frame and it contains artist, album, and length. So here we have passed these columns names in the form of variable. So if I want to check its type, so let me check its type here. So the type is data frame. Now let's create another data frame that is Q, and this data frame is made of columns released and artist. So first of all, I will create a variable. I will name it as a B, okay, and it is the type of list and it will contain these name values, that is released and artist, okay. And now let me select and let me create another data frame that is Q, and it will be from df album, and this will contain this B list, okay. And if I execute it, so as you can see we have a queue which contains release and artist. So I hope you understand that why we are using double brackets. So we can do it like this way also, df album, and if I have to pass a names here, so we can use double bracket. So this double bracket represent a list, okay. And if I copy paste this one and paste it here, so these, the first bracket is for data frame and the second brackets are the list that we are passing, okay. So here we have created a list here and we passed it, okay, as inside a single bracket because this is a list. And here we are not passing any variable, but we are passing the names on the columns inside a list, okay. And if I execute it, so it gives me the new data frame that contains release and artist values. And now let's explore iloc and log functions, okay. So iloc and log function is used for slicing the data frame. So first of all, let me show you the data frame we have. So this is the data frame we have, right? And now, for example, if you want to select some specific value from specific index, right? So for that, we can use the iloc function. So for example, if I want to select the value that is back in black, and for that I can call df album, and I can call the iloc function. And if I want to explore it, like what it do, so here we can pass an integer, okay, or list of integers we can pass, or we can pass the slicing objects or slicing integers, okay. So inside the iloc function to get the value from a specific index. So let me explain it by implementation. So here let me select this one back in back. As you can see, this is at index 1 for row, and also it uses the column index 1, okay, that is 0 and 1. So in iloc, we have a comma. So left side of the comma is always the row index, and right side of the comma is the column index. So first of all, I will pass 1 as a row index and 1 as a column index, and if I execute it, so it gives me the specific value that is back in leg. Let me create another cell here. So now let's do another one. So I will call our data frame, and inside this data frame I will call the iloc function. And here, for example, if I want to select this value, so it is at index 5 for rows, and the column is also 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, it is 4, right? Because it starts from 0. So for the row, I will pass 5, and for the column, I will pass 4. So it gives me the rock, soft, rock, and fork rock, right? Rock, right? And now let me select this one, 32.2. Okay, so for that, I will say df album, and here I will call iloc function. Okay, so this value is at index 5 for rows, so I will say 5, and for column it is also 5. Okay, so if I execute it, so it gives me the 32.2. So this is how by using iloc function you can select a specific value from a specific cell of the data frame. In data frame, we can also use slicing. Okay, so for that, for example, if I want to select the first row and first column, okay, so I will call df album, and the first row in first column is 0, 0. If I execute it, so it gives me the Michael Jackson name, which is at first row and first column. Okay, and if I want to select the complete row, so I will say df album, and I will say the iloc, and if I pass only the 1, so it will give me the one complete row that is at index 1. So at index 1 we have artist AC/DC and back in back like 1980. So if I see here, so the artist is AC/DC, back in back, like this series is 1980. Okay, and similarly, if I want to select the fifth row, and I will say df album, I will log 5, and if I execute it, okay, this is markdown, I will change it to code. If I execute it, it gives me the fifth row. Okay, the fifth row is Eagles, the greatest hits, 1976. Okay, and let me select the column. So for column, because column is at on the right side of the comma, so for example, if I want to select the third column, but here I have to pass the row, so I want to select all the rows that and that for the but the column is at index 3. So at index 3 we have a column length, but I want to select all the rows, okay, for length. Okay, for that I have to pass a column here on the at the attribute of rows. Okay, and if I execute it, I got the error because I didn't call the iloc function. So I will call the iloc function, and if I execute it, so it gives me the values for the column 3, but it gives me all the rows. So if I pass 0 here, so it gives me the columns at index 0, which is the name of the artist. For all the artists, it gives me, right? And now let's select some I will say some different columns. So for rows, I will select all the rows. But now if I want to see columns from artist to album entries, so I want to select these 3 columns for all the rows. Okay. For that, I will say here, I will say start from the 0, and then I will pass the column mark, and I will say stop it at index 3. And if I execute it, so it start from 0 and it goes till index 3. At index 3, we have a column length. So it didn't include the length, but it included till it take it till this column 2. Okay, that is release. So in slicing, we will start from here, and the start is included in the slicing, but the end will be excluded. Okay. Similarly, we can also do it for rows. So here, if I do it for rows, so I will say, so for this data frame, I will want to take these 2 rows. So that is from 3 to 4. For that, I will pass 3 here, and I will stop it at 5. Okay. So it gives me a 3 and 4. So 5 is excluded in the data frame slicing. Okay. It will be not included. It is excluded, but the start is included. So in slicing, we have in slicing, we have a start and then stop. Okay. So start will be included. I will say will be included, but stop will be excluded in data frame slicing. Okay. So start will be included, but the stop will be excluded. So this is the point that need to keep remember. And now, for example, if I want to select the album, and if I do it iloc, and here I will say 4 to 6, and then the column will be 0 to 6. Okay. And if I execute it, so it gives me these values. But now if I want to assign it to another data frame from this one, so if I copy paste this way to here, and here I will say x equal to this. Okay. And now if I execute the x, so now we have a x new data frame which contains these values. Okay. And then we can select x dot iloc, and from x inside, if we want to select this one, so it is at now this is very interesting. As you can see, it is showing index 4 and 5. Okay. But it is at index, the row will be at index 1. Okay. And the column will be index also 1. Okay. So if I execute it, so it gives me the greatest haste. Okay. But if I pass 5 here, as it is showing the 5, so it will give me the error. Okay. Because the 5 is not included here. Okay. So it is at the position of 1 to 1. So 0 and 1, and in the column is 0 and 1. Okay. Similarly, for example, if I want to select this value, so it is at row 1 for index 1 for row, and the column is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I pass the 4 here, so it gives me the rocks of socks for full frog. Okay. And I can assign this value to a variable, I will name it as a t, and here I will say x iloc. Okay, and here I will pass 1, comma 4, and I will print the t. Okay, and now if I want to see its type, so if I will pass this type, so it is a string because it contains the value string. Similarly, let's check its type. Let me select this one, 1976. So I will create some cells here, and I will say, I will just copy paste, and this is 1976 at row 1, and the column is 0, 1, 2. Okay, and if I execute it, it is 1976, and if I want to check its type, now its type is integer. Okay, and now I do it like, I will say x dot iloc, and I will pass 0, and for column I will say 0 to 1. Okay, and if we see, so basically it is a series. Let me check its type. So I will say type dot x dot iloc. Okay, and here, okay, and 0 to 1, and let me pass 2 here. So it is basically a series, right? It gives me the series. Okay, so if I want to convert it to a data frame, so here I can do it like this way. I will say a equal to, and I will copy paste this way to this one, and if I execute it, so it gives me a, okay, which contains these values, and let me check its type. I will say type A, so it is a series, right? That is because it contains only the single record. Okay, but if I by meaning of single record, I mean to say only the one value, or one value. Okay, and if I select multiple rows like 0 to 2, if I execute it, so it will give me the data frame. Okay, if I check its type, it is a data frame now. So before, I was selecting only a single record, only one row. So one row will give me a series, but if I select multiple rows, so it will give me the data frame. Okay, it is clear. Let me move these cells down here. I will move this one also here. Okay, so we are good. Yep. So now we have to access the first rows. Okay, so for the first 2 rows, if I have to access, so I can do it like x. We will use df album. So I will say I dot log, and for first 2 rows, okay, just let me correct this. And for first 2 rows, I will say so for the column, I will select all the columns, and for the first 2 rows, I will start from 0 to 2. Okay, and if I execute it, so it gives me the first 2 rows from the df album. Okay, and I can do it also in different ways. So if I pass df album, then I will call iloc, and here I will pass only the row that we are selecting, and here, as you can see, we are not selecting the columns. Okay, because we are going to select all the columns, we don't need to mention that. And if I execute it, so the result is same like this one. Okay, and we can select the columns with the rows also, like we did. So if I call df iloc, and I will select the first 2 rows and the first 2 columns, and if I execute it, so it gives me the first 2 rows with the first 2 columns, that is artist and album. So this is about iloc functionality, and now let's explore log function. So we have seen iloc, right, and it works on the indexes, but the log function, which uses names of columns and row indexes. Notice that iloc was using row and column index to access the values, right? So in iloc, we were passing the indexes for rows and columns. Okay. But the lock function will be used to select the data from the data frame by passing the row indexes, and in the column we will pass the name of the column. So for example, let's select df album, and I will call the log function. So inside the log function, I will select the first two rows and the columns which I want to select. So I will pass inside an array, and I will say artist. Okay. And if I execute it, so it gives me the artist. And now if I want to select another column, which is album. Okay. And if I execute it, so it gives me the album. So this log function has an advantage that we can select the column from the middle of the data frame. For example, if I want to select artist and release, or I can select artist and general, so I can call general. Okay. So as you can see, I have selected the two columns, that is artist and general. So there are some columns between both of these columns. So if I try to do it with iloc, okay, so iloc, I have to pass the indexes, and then it is not possible. But with the help of log function, we can give the name of the columns that we want to select. Okay, so here if I want to select another column, that is I want to select the soundtrack. Okay, so I will say soundtrack, and if I execute it, so I think the spelling is incorrect, so I will pass the soundtrack here. So it gives me the column that is the soundtrack, right? And so this is how we can select multiple columns with the help of log functionality. Okay, and let me select another column called rating. Okay, so this is how we can select the multiple columns. Let me correct this one. This is only the artist, and here we can select the multiple columns. Now let's select the 4 to 6 row, access the 4 to 6 row. So for that, I will call df album, and I will call log function. So 4 to 6 row, okay, we will pass the indexes, and we will select all the columns. Okay, so that is why we are not going to select any column name here. Okay, and now let's try to do it with the iloc function. So if I do it like with the df album iloc, and similarly I will pass the 4 to 6. So as you can see, in log function we have a 6 is included, right? But in iloc, as you can see, the 6th one is excluded. So this is the difference between log and iloc. Okay, so in iloc the stop is excluded, but the log function the stop is included. Now let's access fifth and the rows after fifth with column starting from artist till length. So this is how we can do it. This is how we will do it in with the help of log. And now let's access fifth and the rows after fifth with columns starting from artist till length. So first of all, let me print the whole data frame. So I will say df album, so we can see. Okay, so we will select the rows from fifth. Okay, so from here we will select the data that is after fifth and after fifth, and the columns will be artist till then. Okay, so till then we will select these data. So for that I will say df album, then log function, and here I will pass, I will say after fifth. Now we don't need to start from actually, so, and here I will say from fifth to till end. So that is why we are not passing the end here. And in the column we will pass the name of the column, that is artist. Okay, and then we have album, and then we have released, and then we have length. Okay, and if I execute it, so as you can see, it gives me the values fifth and after fifth, and the column from artist in length. Okay, and with the help of iloc, if I want to do with the help of iloc, so I will say df album iloc, and here from fifth till end, and the column is, so the column will be 0 to 4 in FAI executed. So this is with the help of iloc, right? We can do it. So as you can see, the results are same, but in the log function, we pass the names of the columns that we want to see. And in the iloc, we just pass the indexes, right? And another beauty of log function is that if you want to select some specific columns, for example, if I want to select only the artist and then here if I want to select the genre, right? Okay, sorry, I did so much soon. Think let me correct this. And okay, now we are good. So if I pass the genre here and if I execute it, so now it is artist and genre. Okay, so this is how we can use iloc and log to select the values from the data frame. And now let's try to add some new columns in our existing data frame. So I have a data frame called df album. Okay, and now in this data frame I want to add some new columns. So for example, I will say df album, and the new column name will be something like xyz. Okay, and it will contain the values, that is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, because we have 8 records, so that is why we need to add the 8 records in new column. And if I execute it and if I print it, okay, so as you can see here, we have a new column that contains new values, that is xyz from 1 to value 8, right? And we can also create a new column with the existing column, with the help of existing column. So for example, I will say df album, and the new column will be named as a UVZ, so UYZ, and this will be, it will contain df, let me correct it. Okay, so I will say df album, and the existing column will be artist. And if I execute it and if I want to see, okay, so we have a new column that is UYZ, and it contains the values, the artist, we pass it. Okay, right? And let me do one more thing here. So for example, if I have a new column that is something like add some ad, and now let's add our claimed sales millions with our xyz and assign it to a new column that is add. So for that, I will say df album. Okay, and I will pass this column name. I will just copy paste so I don't make the mistake. And now I will add it with the xyz. Okay, okay, I missed it. And if I see here, so as you can see, we have a new column. So we have added our xyz, we were claimed sale in medians, and here are the result, that is 66, 52, 48, right? This is 40 plus 8 gives me the 48. So we can also do add and subtraction on the data frame column, and we can create new columns from those results. And now let's drop the columns. So I have created some new columns here like XYZ, UZ, and add. So I want to drop it. So I will say df album, and I have a function called drop. And inside this drop, I have to pass the column name. So I will say XYZ. And if I execute it, it gives me the error that is method object is not scriptable. So for that, actually I have called it in the wrong way. So inside this bracket, I will call it, okay. And if I execute it, so still we have a error, that is because we have to pass the labels that we want to delete. Then we have to pass the axis, okay. So that is why I have to pass the axis. So I will say axis 1. Axis 1 is for columns, and here in place, I will say in place 2. So the in place 2 function is used to drop the columns and update the data frame at the same place, okay. So if I execute it, and if I want to see our df album, so as you can see, we have dropped the XYZ, right? And now let me copy paste this one here, and now I will select the add here. And now if I don't pass the true here, if I pass the false, okay. So if I execute it, so as you can see, the add functionality is dropped, okay. And here, if I call the df album, so still it has, because we have called the in place as a false. So right now, when I have dropped the add functionality here and I call in place false, so it dropped the add column here, right? But it didn't update the df album. So when I call the df album again, I see that it contains this add column still now, right? So that is why I have to pass the true here. So let me copy paste this again, and here I will paste this line of code here. And now I want to drop the multiple columns. So I will drop add, and I will drop UYZ, and I will say in place true. So it is dropped from the original data frame. So if I execute it, and if I print our data frame, so as you can see, the column has dropped successfully. So now if I want to check the type of each column, like these columns, okay, what is the type of these column? So for that, I will call df album, and I will call the type function. So yep, let me do it. Sorry, actually it is the type, okay. And if I execute it, so it tells me that the artist is a type of object, album is a type of object, release is a type of integer, okay, integer 64. Similarly, we have a rating, which is float 64, and the released one is a date time 64, okay. So this is how we can see the type of each column of the data frame. And now if I have to check the null values in our data frame, I have a functionality called, I will say df album dot, if I call is null, okay. And if I execute it, so it tells me that at what position we have a null values. So false for that, false will tell us that these are not nulls, but the true is indicating that the value is null at this specific positions, okay. So df album is null will tell us that at which position we have null values. And to calculate that how many null values we have, so I will say df is null, then I will call the sum function, and if I execute it, so it tells me that in soundtrack we have 6 null values. So on other columns we have 0 null values, but in the soundtrack we have six null values. Now to check the summary of the data frame, so I have a function called dfalbum.describe. Okay, and if I execute it, so it tells me some statistic of the data frame. Okay, so here it tells me that the count of each columns. So release contains 8 values. Okay, this is music recording contains also 8 records. So similarly, claim, release, and rating have 8 records. Okay, and the mean of these values, we have 1979. This is for 28. Similarly, the minimum we have 1973 in release, and the maximum is 1992. It contains. Okay. So the describe, it tells the statistic for the columns that are not object types. So if we see here, we have data types for the columns such as release is integer, float 64. So the describe will tell us the statistic for those columns which are not objects. Okay, so these are the 25 percentile, then we have 50 percentile, and then we have 75 percentile. Okay, and 50 percentile for claim sales medians is 43. And now if I want to see the statistic for all the columns, so I will say df album dot describe, and inside describe I have a para attribute called include, and here I will pass the all. Okay, sorry, all will be passed inside the single quote, but let me make it in a small, and if I execute it, so as you can see now, it telling me the statistic for all the columns. So we have all the columns here. Okay, so the top is Michael Jackson for artist. Okay, and the album is Thriller, and we don't have mean because artist contains object type, not an integer or float, but we have mean value. So this is how we can see the statistic for all the columns. Okay, and now let's do some querying on the data frame. So if you are familiar with the database, right, in database we are doing querying on the basis of where clause, right, with the help of where clause. So in the data frame, how we can do that? So querying a database means finding some values based on certain conditions. For example, you want to find out the album having rating greater or equal to 9. So let me do it like this way. So I will call the df album. So let me print the df album here. So now we have to select the records that have a rating equal or greater than 9. So if we see here, we have a record that is Pink Floyd, which has a rating 9, and then this is 9.5, and this is 10. So we have to select the data on the basis of rating that is equal or greater than 9. So for that, I will call df album, and inside this df album, I will select df album. Okay, and here I will pass the rating column, and I will say greater or equal to 9. Okay, and if I execute it, so as you can see, it gives me these 3 rows, right? These 3 records that contain rating 9 or greater than 9. Okay, and now if you want to do query and also want to select some specific columns, okay, for that we will use the log function. So I will copy paste this one here, right, and I will call the log function here, and log function here I will pass our columns. So for example, I want to see the column artist, and another column I want to see album, and the third column I want to see rating. Okay, and if I execute it, so it gives me the data frame or the records that contains the our selected column, and it contains the values that has rating more than 9 or equal to 9. Okay, and now let me uh, create another data frame from this one. For example, if I say x equal to this one, okay, and if I want to see x, so now we have x as a new data frame which contains our query data. So here we have a task that we have to find the album that is released during and after the year 1980. So I will create another data frame. I will name it as a query or queue, and here I will say df album, and here because we are going to select all the columns, so we will not call the log function. So I will say df album, and from df album I will say okay, and here we have to check the column that is released, and I will take it as a release, and it is released during or after the year 1980. So it will be greater or equal to 1980. Okay, and if I execute it, and let me call the cell to print the queue. So we have one album that has been released in 1992. Okay, I have make a mistake here. That is not 1989, it is 1980. So if I execute it, so we have these three records that is after 1980, and we have 1982, 1980 here, and 1992. Okay, and now we have a exercise that we are going to import another data set, that is import file cars.csv, and we have to show all these things, right? So to read a CSV, we will call pd.read CSV, and we will pass our CSV file that is called .csv. Okay, and it is at the same location I'm working on my notebook. So if I execute df underscore cars, okay, so if I execute this cell, it will create df underscore cars, and if I check our df underscore cars, so it contains these values. Let me, it is df underscore cars, okay, and it contains these values. So first of all, we have to select first 5 rows, okay. So for that, I will call df underscore cars, and I will call the head function, and inside this head function, I will pass the 5, okay, and it will give me the first 5 values. And if I don't pass the 5 inside the head, so it will still give me the 5 rows, because the default value for the head is 5. Okay, and now let's select the last 5 rows. So for that, I will say df underscore cars, and I will call the tail function. Inside this tail, I can pass the 5, or else I can do it like with the default value, which is also 5 for the tail. So as you can see, it gives me the last 5 rows of the data frame. Okay, and now let's access 100 to 113th row with any 3 columns. Okay, so we will use iloc function. So I will say df underscore cars, and I will call iloc, and iloc inside I will call 100 to 131, because in iloc the stop is excluded, so that is why I pass it as a 131. Okay, and any 3 columns, so I will select from 4 to 5. Okay, and if I execute it, so it contains only 3 columns from 100 to, if I see, to 130, right? And now for example, if I want to do it with the log function, so I will say df dot log, and in the log I will say 100 to 130. So in the log the stop is included, so that is why I have passed 130 here. But in iloc, as you can see, I have passed 131 because the stop is excluded. So, okay, and here I will pass the name of the column. So here let me do it like this way. So the first column I will to select, for example, make, and I will pass make here. And the second column is fuel type, or I can say number of doors. And the third will be body style. Okay, and I will say number of doors, and here it is body style. Okay, if I execute it, so okay, this is because I have to give the name is df underscore cars for my data frame, and as you can see, it contains 100 to 130, and these are the make, name of doors, and body style. These are the column which I have selected, right? And now I have to check the type of each column. So I will say df underscore cars, and I have a function called dtypes, and if I execute it, so it tells me the type of each columns, right? And now let me check the null values. If I say df underscore cars, that is null. If I execute it, so as here we can see, if we find any true, then we will have a null value. But here right now I can't see any true here. So what I do, I will do it like this way. I will say df cars dot is null, and I will call the sum function. And if I execute it, so we don't have any null value in our this data frame. Okay, and now if I want to check the statistic, or for that I will call df.car.describe, and if I execute it, so these are the statistics for the columns which are other than object type. So we have a total count is 201. So we have 201 records, right? And then we have mean for each column. Then we have a standard deviation. Then we have minimum value, and we have maximum value. And here we have a percentile, that is 25 percentile. So it shows that at 20, for example, if I want to see the column of this horsepower, so we can see that 70% of horsepower, sorry, 70 horsepower values at as 25 percentile, and then 50 percentile we have 95, and then we have 70 percentile is 100 and 116 for the horsepower. Okay, so this is how we can check the statistic. And now let me check the statistic for all the columns. So for that I will say df cars dot describe, and inside describe I will call the include, and include I will pass the all value, and it will give me the statistic for all the values. Okay, so like we can see here, right? And we can see the all the values for our for example, if I check the type of this make, so make was not here, but we have a make here. Okay, so at top we have Twitter, and this type is gas. Okay, and now let's explore grouping. Okay, so grouping works similar to group by as in databases. And Pandas, we also provides a group by function which serves the same purpose. So for example, I have a data frame for called df cars, right? And here I will call the group by function, and I will do the group by on the fuel type. And we have a column of fuel type. I will say fuel type. I will copy paste this one here, so I don't make the mistake in spelling. And here I have to select the price. Okay, because I want to do the group of fuel type on the basis of price, and I will do the mean. I will take the mean. Okay, so I'm going to take the average price on the basis of on the basis of column fuel type, and if I execute it, So it tells me that the diesel has an average 15,838 and the gas we have 12,916. Okay. So this is how we can do the group by. So let me do the group by another column. So I will say df dot cars dot group by. In here I will pass the number of doors. So I have number of doors here. Let me check the spelling is correct. Let me copy paste this one so I don't make a mistake in the spelling. Okay, let me paste it here, and I will do it on the basis of price, and I will call the mean function. Okay, and if I execute it, so we have number of doors 4 and 2, and the mean average of price for that is 13,498 for 4 door and 12,818 for 2 doors. Okay, so we have done the group by, and now let's create another variable. So I will say fuel, I will say df fuel type. Okay, and I will paste it here, this one. If I execute it and if I print it, okay, so okay, let me correct the spelling. It is fuel type. Okay, I will execute this one again. So as you can see, we have a new variable. The values are assigned. But what if I want to see this in a data frame? For that, let me copy paste this, and for that I will call reset index functionality. Okay, and if I execute it, I have error because let me correct this one. And if I execute it, and now let's print our df fuel type. So as you can see, it is in the form of data frame, and then we have a few type of diesel and spices. It's this, so we have new data frame. So if I want to check its type, df fuel type, so it is a data frame. Okay, but without reset index. So I have done it without reset index for our let me do it for I will create new cells, and now for number of doors. Okay, so sorry for the zoom out. Okay, so here I will paste this way, and I will say tf number of doors, right? And if I execute it, so it is not a df actually, it is a number of doors, new variable, and if I want to check its type, it is a series, right? And we can make a df or data frame from this by calling the reset index functionality. And if now I check its type is data frame now, right? So we have a task here to find the total price according to each body style. Okay, and we will use sum function instead of mean. Okay, so first of all, I will create a variable called total price, and now I will call our df cars dot group by. Okay, inside group by, so we have to find the total price according to each body style. So for body style, I have to call the column called body style. So I will copy paste this one, and we will paste it here, and here I will do the price, and now I will call sum. Okay, because we are doing the taking the total price, so you will use the sum, not the mean, because mean gave us the average. Okay, and now I will call the reset index. Okay, and if I in here I will print the total price, and if I execute it, so we have different body style, that is convertible, hard top, hatchback, sedan, and wagon, and the sum of these prices are 131,343 for convertible, hard top for this one, and hatchback we have this, and we have sedan when we have wagon this one. Okay, So this is how we can use group by function on data frames with the help of Pandas. And if you haven't subscribed my channel till now, kindly subscribe my channel, click on the bell icon. So, and also like the video. And if you haven't subscribed my channel till now, kindly subscribe my channel, click on the bell icon, and also kindly like the video. So now pivoting and melting. Till now, we have seen how we can do the group by a single column, right? But let me do a group by multiple columns. So for example, I will create a variable called group, and now I will call df cars that group by, and inside group by, will do the group by on multiple column. So the first group by will be actually, let me call the number of, first let me do it on the fuel type first one, and the second column will be body's number of doors. Okay, so I will copy paste number of doors here, and we will do the group by on the price, and then I will take the mean. Okay, and then we set index. Okay, and if I execute it, and if I say this, okay, so we have done group by multiple columns, that is fuel type, number of doors, and we have a price, okay, on the basis of fuel type and number of doors, right? And now let's do the pivoting and melting. So for that, I have a function in our PD. So I will call PD dot pivot table. So if I explore it, so basically it takes our data frame, and then we have to give the value, index, columns, aggregate function, which X function we want to use, right? And if we want to drop null values, if yes or true, so if we want to sort, right? So these are the attributes it's expecting. Okay, so for the data frame, I will pass the group data frame which we have created right now. So I will pass group here, and here I have an attribute called index, and for the index I will pass our column called fuel type. I hope the spelling is correct. Yep. And for the columns, I will pass number of doors. And for the values, like I will say values, I will have price, right? And the aggregate function, we will use mean and drop NA. We have another attribute called fill value. It will be 0. Okay, so if I execute it, I have an error, and that is because of this number of doors. I used underscore instead of hyphen, and if I execute it, so it gives me the pivot table, and inside this pivot table, so we have a number of doors, that is 4 and 2. Okay, so for 4 we have price this for diesel, and gas as price for 4 doors, this one. Similarly for 2 number of doors for diesel, we have this price, and for 2 number of doors for gas fuel type, we have this price. So this is how we can create a pivot table. Okay, and now let's assign this sits to our new variable. So I will say pivoted, and if I call this one here, okay, and if I call our pivoted variable here, okay, so it is like this way. Now we will reset the index, so it gives me the value in the form of data frame. Okay, so we have number of doors, it is, we have indexes 0 and 1, and then we have fuel type, diesel, gas. For 4 we have this price, for 2 we have this price, right? For gas, for 4 we have this price, and for 2 have this price. So this is how we can create a pivot table. So now let's explore melting. So for that, I will create a variable called x from this pivot table. Okay, so we have a x. I have created new variable. So this is our data frame. I will check its type. So I will say type x. It is a data frame. And now let's create a melting. Okay, so for that I will name it as a melted, and here I will call pd dot melt. So inside this melt, let's explore its attributes. So we have to pass the data frame, then id was, then value was, then var name, value name, column table, and ignore index, whether we are going to ignore the index, that is true or false. Okay, and it will return a data frame. So id was is in the form of tuple list, value was also will be in tuple list, so where var name scalar, and here we have a column value, whether it is integer or string. Okay, so let's create melting, and for that I will call our variable called x. This is the x we have created, the number of data frame, and id was will be our fuel type. Let me change it into hyphen from underscore, and the value name will be main value. Okay, and if I execute it, and here if I print it, so this is our melting, right? So we have fuel type and we have our mean values. Okay, because we take the mean here, okay, from pivoted, so we go back from pivoted back to the melting. Okay, so we have diesel gas, and we have 4, and this is for 2, and it contains the mean values. Okay, so this is how we can do the melting, and this is all about pandas data frame, that how we can use pandas and data frame functionality for data analysis, and to deal with a large number of data sets, right? So we have explored a lot of functions, like to check the null, to check the disk size, to check our data set, to select the data set from specific indexes. We use iloc and log function. We have used is null to check whether it contains the null values. Then we have did the grouping, right? And also we have did the pivoting and melting. So if you haven't subscribed my channel, kindly subscribe my channel, click on the bell icon. And also if you have any confusion, you can leave your comment in the comment section.